And the company that's getting hit on is PSA because and collectors because they've diversified, but they're not stupid.
One rabbit.
I am having a debate with Dr. Beckett right now. So I just want to say, wow, I didn't see that coming in my lifetime. I want to throw it back at you.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I've thrown out ideas there, some of which they've received very warmly, and others they've said, well, we'll take that under advisement.
At last.
Tonight, I'm lucky enough to talk to Dr. Jim Beckett, in my opinion, one of the most influential figures in the history of sports cards. And for me, it's really neat because Beckett was a part of my childhood. It was a part of a lot of our childhoods. And it was started in 1984. In 1999 is when they start their grading service. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Beckett for coming on and welcome.
Jason, I'm even older than you suggested because I really got started in the 70s and was doing price surveys as early as 1976.
Wow. Okay. Do you still I want to start. Do you still participate? Are you still buying or selling cards? Are you involved in the hobby in any way?
I've gone from being a hobbyist to being in the business to back to being a hobbyist. So I just enjoy going to a few shows. I go to a show every other month up here in Dallas, which is great. I go to the National every year. I've never missed one. But again, it's as a hobbyist. So
sorry to interrupt you. One of my viewers sent me something saying they see you at the Dallas Card Show and you're spending hours in dollar boxes. Is that correct?
Why is that so surprising?
That's so neat. That is awesome. They don't hear that.
I'm always been a long tail guy. All the price guides, they could be pretty thin if you only looked at the best cards in the best sets. But if you really tried to have a price guide that had every card in every set, and even the magazines got real thick, but the annual books. So I've always been a lifer and I've always been a long tail guy. And it's a treasure hunt. It's tiny treasure, but it's fun. It's fun.
That's me looking for some smaller value. I love it. Okay, I recently watched one of your podcasts. We went easy. Now I want to go a little rougher. And it was titled Conflict of Interest. And you mentioned a little bit of how the world has changed. It's more accepting, or just kind of what society is. It's not just in sports cards. And I felt your guests really kind of, and I don't want to be rude, but they kind of just brushed the subject off. They didn't really talk about conflict of interest. So I'm curious where do you see any of it, or where would you say there is some conflicts of interest, even if no one cares?
Well, no, a lot of people care.
Okay, I care,
but not everybody cares. And if you count caring by how they talk instead of how they walk, they complain, but then they keep doing what they're doing. So, but the people in the room it was a very eclectic group representing, more like hobbyists all the way up into some of the big entities in the industry. And so I think my thesis was correct, is that conflict of interest is not as big a deal as it would have been 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. It's still a deal. And if you mess it up, if you betray the public trust, and the company that's getting hit on is PSA because and collectors because they've diversified, but they're not stupid. They're trying to expand their business. And if they mess up, if they betray the public trust in a meaningful way, then they jeopardize their whole business. So I don't think they've gone into some of these new initiatives lightly. Fanatics, same thing. Fanatics is a conglomerate now.
Now, Panini is currently in a lawsuit with Fanatics, and that could just be child's play, but over a monopoly. Do you see PSA? I know it's not a monopoly, but it just seems like they're running. There's some lines being crossed to me. And you make a great point. They're not stupid. They have lots of money to have a great legal team, and they didn't go into these things lightly. They're controlling so many angles.
Jason, the control they have, people have given to them by giving their cards and their dollars. And so PSA is not a monopoly. They're the dominant market leader, and that's very different. They're not, well, I mean, there are other alternatives. I mean, that's one of my themes for tonight, is that there are other alternatives. If you're complaining, then you can decide to do something different.
But I guess my conflict of interest, or my issue with it, would not just be an upcharge. It would be, now they're doing graded grails. Now they're doing buybacks. And that's so new. So I understand you say, hey, we did it with our money, but that's really a new pivot. That's something that's only come about the last year. And so why be so accepting? Hey, they're a grading company. We respect them for being a third party and being a grading company. And now they really want to make a lot of money. And so they see value in money in the sales side. And so they want to get in that side.
Well, I mean, the way you're posing it is that they're a grading company. Nat Turner doesn't see it as, and he's the CEO.
All right.
He doesn't see it as a grading company. He sees it as a key company in the industry that wants to, and he's got noble goals, including making money and bringing in new initiatives. So I think if they were just a grading company and they were forced to stay in that lane, it's unenforceable, Jason. It's unenforceable. They're not doing anything illegal. They're not forcing anybody to give them business. And yet they have a dominant market share in spite of everything you're saying.
Well, I enjoy your wisdom. This is going to take me to another point then. I also argue that, let's play the breaking world or some of the card shops that are popping up everywhere. Eventually, there's going to be 2 or 3 big dogs, maybe 10, and no one can compete. And so PSA is almost proving my point first, that they're the one that no one can compete with. And sooner or later, the people can't compete with the top players and the big money. And so I feel like a lot of these card shops popping up, or a lot of the lower breakers, some of the breakers are definitely already struggling keeping up with the bigger guys, but eventually it'll just be the big few.
I don't agree.
Okay.
You're going to see, there's always going to be ebb and flow, and there's going to be some dominant players in every segment of the industry. And then there's going to be some disruptive small guys. One of the guys at the dinner was a smaller breaker who's doing just fine. Okay, because he has a niche and he emphasizes customer service. The bigger companies get corporate, they get institutional.
That's right.
And they've got a lot of they've got a lot of moxie, and they they're very glib and everything. But when somebody decides where they want to go for their breaking experience, it's not always to go to the biggest.
I am having a debate with Dr. Beckett right now. So I just want to say, wow, I didn't see that coming in my lifetime. I want to throw it back at you. If this is all going to become big money, I mean, just point to every other thing in America. The mom and pop shops don't survive. Eventually corporate does take over.
No, mom and pops that try to do business as usual in the 20th century way do not thrive, and maybe don't even survive. But there have been a number of them that have been adaptive and have embraced, newer technologies and emphasizing customer service. When Tom Brady's Card Vault, it's not going to be full service for the whole hobby. It's going to be a lot of customer care for the whales.
Okay.
But if somebody comes in there and just says, hey, I'm interested in, something that's, $5 card, a $2 card, a $1 card, they're going to say, go to the next show or go to a different card shop that's the old-fashioned card shop. All of our stuff is under glass. So there's more than one hobby. There's more than one alternative how you can experience it. And there still are card shops that are doing okay, but you can't compete directly with PSA, and you can't compete directly with a major breaker or a major, very well-funded card shop.
You feel that I'm not just talking.
You're at a disadvantage, Jason. I'm not saying you're not at a disadvantage, but every business that is undercapitalized or has a disadvantage. They've got to be nimble. They've got to emphasize customer service and relationships, and build build connections in their area. They probably can't go nationwide, but they can serve the customer well.
Yeah. It interesting observation, worrisome. It's not just Tom Brady. There's a lot of new card shops popping up. And so is it going to be overly competitive where some of these don't survive, or we're just in a new era of the world? It's 2025 is what you're saying.
It came up in the dinner, we have about 10% of the number of card shops, maybe 15% now compared to what we had.
Wow.
When Beckett was at the peak, we had 20,000 card shops all over the country.
Good insight.
Mostly in America. We had others around the world, but so it's not overexposed compared to then, and yet that was overexposed. There were too many. And so in a capitalistic system, as long as things are fair, I don't like cheating, but if everybody plays fair, and again, the field is not level. Some people have advantages based on, like I say, more capital and stuff like that, but a card shop can make it. And they can make it as a new card shop, as a old-fashioned card shop that brings in some new, some of the new technology.
Does a card shop have to have a breaking wing associated to survive, or not even?
I don't know. It has to, but I think it seems wise to investigate it. I mean, basically, what my theme for tonight with you, Jason, is that I think that if you're in the business of the hobby, you need to consider alternatives, different approaches, and trying to figure out a way that you can carve out your niche as a business. Maybe expand it, maybe shrink it,
and I want to
lower price. But if you're a consumer, then
right.
You need to consider the alternatives of, unless there's only one card shop in each town. And Jason, we had that 5 years ago, 7 years ago. And now we've got multiple, and some do better than others.
Okay, let's go to the consumer side, because that's where my main frustration is there. If you wanted to, we can go to manufacturers. If that's I don't know if you're going to give me anything tonight, but I love it. I absolutely love it. The overprinting bothers me to no end. It makes me not want to buy almost any new product because there's hundreds upon hundreds, if not tens of thousands of Wembanyama rookie cards. And it crushes me as someone that loves cards and just loves collecting rookies. And there's other people like me. I'm not the only one. So, are they shooting themselves in the foot with the overprinting? Is it just making them a ton of money and it's not shooting themselves in the foot? Where do you stand on some of this tons of parallels, tons of serial numbers?
The collector in me says there are too many. I agree, but I'm not the customer anymore. And I've been assured by people that I know well at each of the companies that says they do focus groups. They try to get feedback. They have their own experience of being a long time in the hobby. And still, I agree with you. I think there are too many, because I think it becomes the book paradox of choice, where there's so many you throw up your hands. But until the card companies see a mass exodus of collectors saying, I give up, I'm out of here, the economics of it, Jason, the more parallels, then that means you can produce more with it still being fresh and keep the chase. There have to be multiple chase elements, not just the best card per product.
I can only speak for me, and I know there's other viewers for me, so I don't want you to maybe belittle my thoughts, is that I'm 40 years old. They lost me in about 2019. I was buying in 17, Vlad, Mahomes, that stuff. And then it just got kind of pricey, and then the overprinting. So I am a customer. I should be a customer, and maybe they just don't care about my segment of the people that they lost, because they did lose. I am a customer, and and maybe you're saying it skews younger. Maybe it's not someone long-term in the hobby. I don't know, but they definitely lost my money in buying their product.
No, there are many facets of the hobby. And in the old days, the entry point was buying unopened product and opening it yourself. And nowadays, there are a number of other entry points, including breaking, including dollar boxes, including other kinds of, going to a card show and just seeing what you like, including mystery packs and repacks and things like that. So I don't think, Jason, I don't think you've left the hobby.
No, I buy singles. I buy singles.
But you're buying singles. You've made the alternative. And in fact, that's why I go to the dollar box, because it's better to go and buy the singles. It's a better deal than but somebody has to buy the unopened product and open it and circulate it in. And they're never, it's selling.
So many people are going to lose money.
No,
opening that stuff's a bad ROI.
They're knowingly losing money, but you figured out, hey, this is a losing proposition. And many people figure out it's a losing proposition, and they think, I don't want a hobby that way anymore, but I'm glad there's new product coming out. And if I'm a player collector, I can pick and choose how well developed of a rainbow I want to go after.
You look at the future, and it's just all the overprinting. In a decade, there's going to be so much, just so much. They weren't printing this way in 2015. So these dollar boxes we looked at are going to be overflow with neat and cool inserts and cards, because there's just so much of it.
I know. And I'm going to do an audio podcast, but I'm smiling because that's exactly what's happening, because I've made a choice. I've the alternative of buying something. The good thing about getting in a break or buying a box is that you have not unlimited potential, but you have you have a chance. You're saying there's a chance that I could get something really great. But in the final analysis, your expected value is less than what you put in. And more people are going to be like you, Jason. That's the smart thing to do if you're trying to have a self-sustaining hobby. Buying singles is what people need. That's the way it was in the old days, is that the collectors, the veteran dealers and collectors, they were trying to complete their sets and buy interesting cards. They weren't excited about the brand new cards. They gradually worked their way back. And you probably are doing that too.
And I learned that at 17 years old, though. I find, and I'm sorry to push and make it dirty, but I find the sustainability of this. You say right now, and they've done these market group focus groups, and that's some good insight. Most people end up moving to say that you learn. Unless there's whales that love to gamble. Someone smart learns pretty quick that, hey, I can't be opening this stuff.
Yeah. They're not whales. They're wannabe whales.
Hey, okay, we can agree there.
because the true whale is like the millionaire next door. They're savvy. It's not the way to get rich is to make bad bets and to make a lot of them. Again, knowledge is key. You've been in the hobby enough, and you've interviewed people, and you've looked at it and studied it, that's not the way you want a hobby. And so you're not leaving the hobby. If people are leaving the hobby, then you'll have some different focus groups, and they'll be frustrated. But people don't leave the hobby; they leave a segment of the hobby. They quit hobbying the same way, and that's why it's not a bubble. I've said it's like a whole bunch of LED lights that can be dimmed or are up. And if you have a BB gun and you shoot out a few LEDs, there's still a bunch more that are going. And so it's whack-a-mole. People are saying, I don't want to hobby that way. But you know what? I'm getting excited about soccer. World Cup's coming up. And then I heard there's some action with tennis. And they think, well, maybe. And then if those get overheated, then they think, well, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to go to vintage football. And so there's so many choices. There's so many alternatives.
I guess, and now I just want to explain, but so I have a lot of people that find my channel that I got in 3 months ago. I got in 6 months ago. I've got in within the last year. And so I guess everyone takes a stance of everything so rosy and great that I like that I want to warn these people. And maybe I have to take a certain stance because it's YouTube in a certain way because everyone else is going the other way. But I also just want other people to be informed, and I want them not to get burned in breaks. And I don't know. And I guess I'm learning something about myself here.
No, that's admirable, except that, if you were to, we talked about this in the dinner, if there's $100 box, let's say, and you're the proprietor at the store, and the guy comes in and says, I want to buy this box. I heard there's some great stuff in there. Can I give you $100 for the box? If the shop owner says, you know what, your expectation is that you average about $50 worth of stuff out of this box, and so I don't advise you buying it. I don't advise you buying it. Why don't you buy $50 worth of singles? You get exactly what you want. They're going to say, give me the box for $100. Don't try to talk me out of it.
Okay.
Because I might get a $500 card. And you said, yeah, it's possible, but it's unlikely, but it's possible. And they said, well, in fact, I'm just saying they don't.
The rush is fun.
Well, it's why do people go to Vegas?
Yeah.
You expect to lose when you go to Vegas, but the most vocal people coming back from Vegas are not the ones who lost. They're the ones that either won or almost won, or I knew somebody that won. That's what's going on. So there's still this eternal optimism. And so when I try to be the voice of reason, you're trying to be the voice of reason. In life, not everybody wants to hear it. They need to have some kind of failure to say, you know what, Jason's been telling me that, I wasn't listening, but boy, after a few months of this, I'm realizing I got a little pile of cards that I can't get much for, and I was spending my hard-earned money. But people, they want to. It's a hobby where a person has individual. People sometimes don't have a lot of control of aspects of their life. This is something where I can go into a show and I can decide whatever I want to do, and you can tell me it's wrong. But there are examples of making a wrong purchase that turned out fantastically because you got the downtown or the kaboom.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's okay. So, what advice would you give to a new collector, or someone that's been in for 6 months, a year, 3 months? I mean, obviously educate yourself, but beyond that, what advice would you give?
Well, no, it's really about educating. I mean, basically, you've got to be thinking you're paying a tax when you come in, and it's not a stupid tax. It's an uninformed tax. You don't really know what you don't know. And if you go slow and you don't listen to one type of voice, it's like some people have one type of music they like to listen to. But if you like to listen to lots of different kinds of music, I think that's well-rounded. If you like to listen to lots of different kinds of content creators, I think that gives you a broader education. It's like going to college and taking a bunch of different subjects and putting them all together and figuring out, okay, this is what I really want to do. But you had to maybe study it and figure it out. And like I say, if you get, you're going to have you learn from some of these bad experiences.
Of course.
And when you do, you're better informed. In fact, you go back to the people that gave you the good advice, not the people that were encouraging you to jump off the cliff and borrow money in order to try to get a moonshot.
Okay, last one that's a little bit gonna rile people up, and then we'll get to some more fun stuff. Is there? I'm almost afraid to ask you this. Is there market manipulation going on in the hobby? I mean, our numbers are funny, and I'm talking mainly with prices here, but sometimes these prices it's weird skyrockets of things. I'm not just talking a $13 million car, but do you see any, or do you feel like there's some price manipulation going on?
Well, I don't appreciate that you gave a specific example. So because I'm not intending to speak to any specific example, but absolutely there's market manipulation. And some of them are the most successful of the ones that do it are more subtle. Because if you catch them, we
stay
need
under the radar.
Call them out and kick them out, especially if it's illegal. But a lot of the market manipulation stuff is, can I say unethical, but not illegal? If it's illegal, then they ought to go to jail. If it's unethical, don't do business with them.
The internet makes things so hard to see.
Well, again, you catch them and then they just come back with a different name.
A viewer,
Deal with people that you know. Deal with people that you know.
okay,
Reputation is
great.
important.
That's good advice.
Well,
Yes.
it's been said before.
Yeah, but again, these guys that have been watching, back in the hobby 3-6 months, that find someone you trust, that you know, a shop, a store, a online place, and I do agree with that.
They're not finding the content creator. They're allowing the content creator to find them. I mean, basically,
yeah, breaking my heart.
They're looking for the loudest megaphone. I mean, just because somebody's got a big audience, like I said, get a sampling of different types of podcasts and YouTubers that are giving a spectrum of advice that you can pick and choose. But even the analytical types, it's there's, just because it's like going back to the magazine, the arrows, it doesn't mean it's going up. It means it went up. And so much of the content creators that want to build the hype train are talking about something going up. No one knows that. I mean, you have an inkling. I had an idea when I was doing price guides. Hey, it looks like this is continuing to move, but I was doing monthly price guides, not instant by instant or daily. And so you could see some trends, but those trends can reverse. So there's no sure things.
I want to take it a couple different ways, but I'm going to go the more fun way. Is running your magazine, how much was you got to enjoy and have fun, or how, sometimes in a busy business, it's just stressful. So was it the fun side and you really got to enjoy it, or was it hard to enjoy the moment due to stress?
In the beginning, I loved it, but it was more me, myself, and I for a number of years. And then as we got bigger, and I hired a bunch of really sharp people, I enjoyed that aspect of it. But then it kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And then I really became an executive, Jason. And that's, I'm a hobbyist. I mean, I'm a smart hobbyist. I have some management skills, but I wanted to, I didn't want to be kicked upstairs. And it's what I had to do, what I needed to do. And it wasn't as much fun. So when we got bigger and had lots of employees, that wasn't as much fun as when we had 50 employees. 50 employees I knew them all. They knew me. We pitched in, we all got it done. But then next thing you get to 100, we got almost up to 200. It wasn't as much fun. And yet we had a hobby mandate, we were dependent on.
This is a viewer question. It goes along with Beckett. And does it get under your skin? Does it bother you that, I mean, when you sold the company, Beckett was on top of, and it's kind of fallen off in the past 20 years. So, I mean, does that bother you? Does it get under your skin, or it just, it's not your company anymore?
What do you want me to do, Jason? Buy the company back? I don't think the company's for sale.
Yes, please buy it back.
People have said that, but I mean, they've earned the right to do it their way. And there've been, what I would say is that there've been a number of regime changes, of changes in management there, and some philosophical things that have probably hurt the brand. It's better when it was just me. There was continuity. I was the owner. I was the boss. I was the price guide guy. I was instrumental in getting grading going. All this. I was a very, very knowledgeable hobbyist that had a lot of history, and no one cared more than I did. That's why I love it when there's a CEO of a hobby company that's a hobbyist that really is smart but understands a hobby. So as it got bigger and bigger, it's hard. Business is hard. So yeah. I have free time now. I have margin time. I can mess with cards without thinking I'm supposed to be, doing tax planning or something.
Yeah, quality of life matters.
Yeah.
Someone asked this to ask you, do you see what do you think could happen to help Beckett or revive Beckett, or you're just not in that world anymore?
I'm sort of in that world in that I know a lot of the people there, and I communicate with them. It's more when I'll volunteer some things occasionally, but they, like I said, I'm not the boss anymore. And so I make myself available. I've thrown out ideas there, some of which they've received very warmly, and others they've said, well, we'll take that under advisement. And then they don't do it. But I think they're doing better this year than they were last year. Let's put it that way. So I think they're on the uptick, and I'm a cheerleader for them. But
Okay.
I can't get in the trenches. I do my part. I'm a customer. I submit cards for BGS, and I'm a loyal Beckett fan, if that doesn't sound too self-serving. I want them to do great, but it's a very competitive landscape out there.
Just hearing from you, and what do I know? But you seem at peace with it. I mean, you seem good to be someone that can help if they need it. Maybe you love more your ideas to be heard.
Yeah.
I saw a spark in you when we talked content for a minute. So I know you said, get a well-rounded view, but I find some of the content right now very sensationalized. You mentioned the winner to be loud. I thought that was great. Does any of the content, to some of this sensational, do you find some of the content sensationalized, and does that bother you?
No, I think it's terrific that it's such a dynamic hobby that we've got, I won't call them hucksters, but people that are out there and excited and trying to build excitement in the hobby. But that's not the mainstream. You've got to dial that down a little bit. But the day those people leave, Jason, is the day we're going to have a ghost town. Okay, that we got big money coming in and big talkers coming in. We've got manipulators coming in, and we need to protect our hobby as best we can. But if all those people leave, it's going to be like it was 50 years ago, which was, card conventions that were card tables with a bunch of old guys. So it's good to have this dynamic element. It just needs to not be so over the top. And if it is so over the top, it's either entertainment. In fact, I think it is entertainment. But it's not entertaining to me because I think it's misleading, because they give too much of a rose-colored glasses view of the hobby, which is not sustainable. Things don't keep going up forever.
I'm really glad you mentioned the last part. So, you're being fair, and you gave a really honest take when they leave, it's a ghost town. So it's a good thing
that's here. A little bit hyperbolic.
No, but I get your point. I get the point, I guess, is that it diminishes when those type of people are gone. It shows that the hobby is less big in demand. You didn't want to call them hucksters. I might call them that, though.
but they're very, very excited. They're extroverts, and they are in heaven. They get to talk about a hobby, and they get to hyperbolize and get way out there. And if they make predictions, they'll do 10 predictions, and 5 of them went the wrong way. But they're never going to talk about those. They're going to talk about the 5 that I told you Ohtani was going to have a big game. You should have followed my advice from a month ago to buy all the Ohtanis.
I want to just reflection from you, because you have so much, history and wisdom in the space. How do I want to phrase this? What has cards brought you? I'm sure there's got to be some passion and joy. What has cards brought to your, meaning in your life?
It's given me a lifelong, lifetime hobby, Jason. But it's the way I hobby is different, not necessarily every decade, but if you thought about it, maybe every decade I've evolved a little bit. And so I don't collect complete sets anymore, which is how I started. I'm not Chris Sewell's granddad, but I'm a collector, investor, dealer in that order. Unfortunately, the dealing is me dealing off and out cards. I'm trying to have 1% less cards every month, but I start out as a collector. The investor was just that I bought things and I held them, and the dealer is now disposing of them and finding a new home for cards that I've had in many cases for a long time. And so that's a natural progression, I think. That's why Chris Sewell is just a solid guy.
Oh yeah. Yes, he is. Based off behind you, I would assume vintage, but is it baseball, basketball, football? What is it for you that, really gets you going in the card world?
Well, originally it was baseball. I mean, now I don't go around looking for stuff. In fact, I don't, it's like the cards have to sing to me. I think Mike Moynihan talks about that. If the card sings to you, then you think, I need to pick that up. But I'm mainly looking in the dollar box for my own protection. I'm just enjoying. There's plenty of interesting cards I've never seen before. If I look in the showcases, for Artie Slab stuff, that's just not. I already have a lot of great cards. I have too many to display, so I don't need to buy more great cards. I'm happy with buying some good cards.
What's the fun? Like, what sport or what are you looking for in the dollar box?
I don't limit it. I don't. I'm looking for things that look interesting to me that I haven't seen, that I recognize as being a different color, a different pose, a different back, a different something that would suggest that it's worth a lot more than $1 to the collector that needs that card. So it's
even like hockey and soccer. Are you even
absolutely
there? Oh,
absolutely.
Wow. So you have a very well-rounded. Okay.
Everything. If it sports, I draw the line pretty much at sports.
What sports do you currently still watch?
The price guides. Look at the price guides. They did all the price guides, and I did them by myself until I got these super sharp guys.
All sports you did by yourself?
Originally,
wow.
I didn't have a team. But then, hockey was my weakest one, so I hired a bunch of hockey guys who were really good. Basketball, I've had season tickets for 33, 34 years now for the Mavs. So I'm up on all the sports, but I'm telling you, the long tail. This is my version of the New York Times crossword puzzle, is to try to stay sharp, looking through cards and saying, hey, this is interesting. I'll pick that up. What have I lost? I could lose $1. If I'm right, it's a $5 card, let's say. If I'm wrong, it's a $1 card.
Well, I admire you for that, because that's not where a lot of the hobby is right now.
Well, I can't. Here's why other people aren't doing it, Jason, is that I can't win big, but I can't lose. Most people, they're definitely going to lose, but they might win big. Okay, I have no chance of winning big, but no chance of losing. They have every chance of losing and an infinitesimal chance of winning, but you're saying there's a chance. And so I don't want to play that game. And so it's part of I'm making a statement that the hobby doesn't have to be, you can be proud of the way you hobby regardless of how much money you put into it. But if you're going to call it an investment, which a lot of the most vocal content creators are saying, hey, alternative investment, if it is, you ought to have a strategy that's going to, and it's not buy high and sell higher, because that only works in a bull market. And I've been around long enough to see that there's an ebb and flow. And
are we in a bull market?
It's some things go up, some things go down. Other things go up, other things go down. It's picking the next thing that might go up.
Are we in a bull market right now?
For many things, how could we not be? It's world record prices. But that's not what the card companies have to be looking at. That's adding publicity. But your point is well taken. The buying a box or buying into a break, if your expected value is significantly less than what you put in, that's a losing proposition. If it's slightly less, that's one thing. But if it's a lot less, then that's eventually a problem as people wise up. And yet, what do they want? They don't want the cheaper boxes. They want the more expensive boxes. And if they can't afford the expensive boxes, they want to at least get a spot in the break.
My last viewer question asked, and it's a real big pivot, but do you have any thought? He wanted you to know if you had any thoughts on fractional ownership in cards.
It doesn't work for me. And
Yeah.
I don't think it worked for enough people that they could make it. I think Ezra was a really sharp guy. I think they had a lot of optimism, but they didn't stay on the high end when they started doing market baskets that be fractionalized. That was a strategic mistake, I think. And maybe they're ahead of their time, but what I'm saying by my actions is I'm saying at the heart, this is a tactile hobby. And so I want to touch the cards. And if I don't even know, maybe I can touch the cards maybe I can touch the cards one day a year if I'm a fractional owner, but I want to own my cards and I want to touch them, look at them whenever I want to, not when the syndicate. That's why I don't do vaults either. I don't do vaults. Because I
don't either, but they're pushing them and they're growing them.
Well, they're a moneymaker. And they're not without redemptive value. For some people, it's a good way to do it. It's just not me. Like I say, I have the alternative, and there's more than one vault. I went and saw the shiny new Beckett vault, okay, which I told them I think this is a mistake. And they said, well, what are we going to do now with this hermetically sealed, wonderful room? I said, well, it looks like a prison to me. Yeah, I don't want. But I mean, you win some, you lose some. You try some things, but I'm not a fan of that. Cyberger had it right. I mean, this originally was a hobby for kids or old guys that think like kids and want to recapture their childhood. And if you make it way too sophisticated and too much about money, you're squeezing the charm out of it.
I don't think we can end any better than that. That was so well said, squeezing the charm out of it. Dr. Beckett, truly like something I never thought I'd get to chat with you, man. It really, really was fun. I think we had a great back and forth. I'd love to talk with you again at some point. But I just want to say thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you, Jason. Thanks for doing this. It's like I said, I'm a lifer and I'll go as long as I can. I'm still enjoying doing my podcasts. And I do not, even though I've got a bunch of sponsors, they don't tell me what to do. And I am all over the place with my podcast episodes. So I've got another dinner coming up and we'll see what that different group wants to talk about. So it's been a great ride and making use of the new technologies. I still miss not having a print magazine that's omnipresent and everybody has by their side. But those days are over. So it's now looking in your phone.
Before I do want to, I'm going to spoil the ending. Someone messaged me, it was watching one of yours, and he said you were collecting the wrestling cards, the All-Star set. I believe that's 82 maybe. Do you have a wrestling collection?
Absolutely.
All right.
I get on my card wall that's behind me, it's alphabetized. And when I originally did it, I alphabetized all the baseball, and then I did basketball, then I did football, then I did hockey, then I did wrestling, and NASCAR was in. I did it kind of alphabetical, and you know what? People got confused. So when I moved in my new card room, it's all alphabetized. So Hulk Hogan comes before Michael Jordan, and a few others that are in the HIs and Js. So and I get just as many comments from the Hulkster as I do from any of the other guys there. It's what catches their eye. Nobody comes in and studies it one at a time. There's too many cards. They'll start there and they'll look for their favorite player. So it's very eclectic and it's been a lot of fun for me. But yeah, it's all sports. It's all sports. And I collected all sports.
Dr. Beckett, again, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Jason.
What up, everybody? This is Robert Ory, a.k.a. Big Shot Bob, and you're watching Professional Sports Cards. Hey, by the way, go buy my rookie card.